Arundhati Roy won the Booker Prize for her debut novel called The God of Small Things. And you would expect for any novelist after winning the Booker Prize to go on writing quite a few novels, and that too soon. But she is different. She decided to go for a different path, did a lot of activism, wrote most of the non-fiction stuff. And her second novel came around 20 years after that. And as I said, in between there was a lot of activism. She's been vocal against Indian government, both the parties, the major political parties, the BJP and the Congress. And she's been a vocal critic of capitalism, religious fundamentalism, and if you were to categorize her or put her somewhere in terms of politics, you would say she is very much on the political left. She's been supportive of the Maoist movements in India, which are closely linked to the communism, and since she's been against the Western imperialism and capitalism, she has spoken out against how corporates and big businesses, how they ventured into the territories of native people and the tribals through the politics of protests. So today I'm going to read a few passages from her book. It's a non-fiction book called Broken Republic, where she is criticizing certain policies of the Indian government and pointing out how the path of development or progress goes through the oppression of certain communities. So I'm going to read now. Let's start. For some years now, protests, unless they are patronized by political parties or religious organizations, have been banned in Delhi. The boat club on Rajpath, which has in the past seen huge historic rallies that sometimes lasted for days, is out of bounds for political activity now and is only available for picnics, balloon sellers and boat rides. As for India Gate, candlelight vigils and boutique protests for middle-class causes such as justice for Jessica, the model who was killed in a Delhi bar by a thug with political connections, are allowed, but nothing more. Section 144, an old 19th century law that bans the gathering of more than 5 people who have a common object which is unlawful in a public place, has been clamped on the city. The law was passed by the British in 1860 to prevent a repeat of the 1857 mutiny. It was meant to be an emergency measure, but has become a permanent fixture in many parts of India. Perhaps it was in gratitude for laws like these that our Prime Minister, while accepting an honorary degree from Oxford, thanked the British for bequeathing us such a rich legacy. He said, "Our judiciary, our legal system, our bureaucracy, and our police are all great institutions derived from British and Indian administration, and they have served the country well. Jantar Mantar is the only place in Delhi where Section 144 applies but is not enforced. People from all over the country, fed up with being ignored by the political establishment and the media, converge there, desperately hoping for a hearing. Some take long train journeys. Some, like the victims of the Bhopal gas leak, have walked for weeks all the way to Delhi. Though they had to fight each other for the best spot on the burning or freezing pavement, until recently protesters were allowed to camp in Jantar Mantar for as long as they liked, weeks, months, even years. Under the malevolent gaze of the police and the special branch, they would put up their faded shamianas and banners. From here, they declared their faith in democracy by issuing their memoranda, announcing their protest plans, and staging their indefinite hunger strikes. From here, they tried to march on Parliament. From here, they hoped. Of late, though, democracy's timings have been changed. It's strictly office hours now, 9 to 5, no overtime. No sleepovers, no matter from how far people have come, no matter if they have no shelter in the city, if they don't leave by 6 pm, they are forcibly dispersed by the police if necessary, with batons and water cannons if things get out of hand. The new timings were ostensibly instituted to make sure that the 2010 Commonwealth Games in New Delhi would go smoothly. But nobody is expecting the old timings back anytime soon. Maybe it's in the fitness of things that what is left of our democracy should be traded in for an event that was created to celebrate the British Empire. Perhaps it's only right that nearly 400,000 people should have been driven out of the city and many seen their homes demolished, or that hundreds of thousands of roadside vendors should have had their livelihoods snatched away by order of the Supreme Court, so that city malls could take over their share of business, and that tens of thousands of beggars should have been shipped out of the city, while more than 100,000 galley slaves were shipped in to build the flyovers, metro tunnels, Olympic-size swimming pools, warm-up stadiums, and luxury housing for athletes. The old empire may not exist, but obviously a tradition of servility has become too profitable an enterprise to dismantle. I was at Jantar Mantar in spring 2010 because 1,000 pavement dwellers from cities all over the country had come to demand a few fundamental rights: the right to shelter, to food, to life, protection from police brutality, and criminal extortion by municipal officers. The sun was sharp that day, but still civilized. This is a terrible thing to have to say, but it's true. You could smell the protest from a fair distance. It was the accumulated odor of 1,000 human bodies that had been dehumanized, denied the basic necessities for human health and hygiene for years, if not a whole lifetime. Bodies that had been marinated in the refuse of our big cities. Bodies that had no shelter from the harsh weather, no access to clean water, clean air, sanitation, or medical care. No part of this country, none of the supposedly progressive schemes, no single urban institution has been designed to accommodate them. Not the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission, not any other slum development, employment guarantee, or welfare scheme. Not even the sewage system. They shit on top of it. They are shadow people who live in the cracks that run between schemes and institutions. They sleep on the streets, eat on the streets, make love on the streets, give birth on the streets, are raped on the streets, cut their vegetables, wash their clothes, raise their children, live and die on the streets. If the motion picture were an art form that involved the olfactory senses. In other words, if cinema smelled, then films like Slumdog Millionaire would not win Oscars. The stench of that kind of poverty wouldn't blend with the aroma of warm popcorn. The people at the protest in Jantar Mantar that day were not even slum dogs, they were pavement dwellers. Who were they? Where had they come from? They were the refugees of India shining, the people who are being sloshed around like toxic effluent in a manufacturing process that has gone berserk. The representatives of the estimated 60 million people who have been displaced by rural destitution, by slow starvation, by floods and drought, by mines, steel factories, and aluminium smelters, by highways and expressways, by the 3,300 big dams built since independence, and now by special economic zones. They are part of the 836 million people of India who live on less than 20 rupees a day. The ones who starve while millions of tons of food grain is either eaten by rats in government warehouses or burnt in bulk. They are the parents of the tens of millions of malnourished children in our country, of the 1.5 million who die every year before they reach their first birthday. They are the millions who make up the chain gangs that are transported from city to city to build the new India. Is this what is known as enjoying the fruits of modern development? What must they think, these people, about a government that sees fit to spend 240 billion rupees of public money for a 2-week long sports extravaganza, which, for fear of terrorism, malaria, dengue, and New Delhi's new Superbug, many international athletes have refused to attend? Which the Queen of England, titular head of the Commonwealth, would not consider presiding over, not even in her most irresponsible dreams. What must they think of the fact that enormous sums of money has been stolen and salted away by politicians and games officials? Not much, I guess, because for people who live on less than 20 rupees a day, money on that scale must seem like science fiction. Maybe it doesn't occur to them that it's their money. That's why corrupt politicians in India never have a problem sweeping back into power, using the money they stole to buy elections. Then they feign outrage and ask, why don't the Maoists stand for elections?